She was never actually alone. Not in the way people define it. Every morning, she stepped into a crowded London train, shoulder pressed against strangers, voices overlapping, phones ringing, footsteps rushing. At work, she smiled. At lunch, she laughed. At night, she scrolled through messages she never replied to. And yet, every single day, she went home to complete silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind that feels heavy. Like the walls are listening, but never answering. Her name was Emily Carter, 29, living in East London. And no one in her life had any idea she was disappearing in plain sight. Emily worked in a marketing agency in central London. She was fine. That's what everyone thought. "Emily, you're always so put together," her colleague Sarah said one morning. Emily smiled quickly. "Yeah, just busy, I guess." Busy. That word became her shield. Her apartment was small but modern. Clean kitchen, soft lighting, a sofa she never really sat on. At night, she would sit there anyway, staring at her phone. Her mother called sometimes. "Are you seeing anyone?" "I'm focusing on work," Emily replied every time. There was a pause on the other end. Then, "You should go out more. London is full of people." Emily looked out of her window. Yes. Full of people. That was the problem. It started with small things. Not replying to messages. Skipping Friday drinks. Eating dinner in silence while watching strangers lives online. At work, she began speaking less. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked once. "I'm just tired," Emily answered. But tired wasn't the right word. It was something deeper. One evening, she sat on the bus and looked around. Everyone was connected to something. Headphones, conversations, screens. No one looked at each other. She suddenly realized something strange. She could vanish in that moment, and nobody would notice until her stop. That night, she didn't turn on the lights when she got home. She just sat in the dark. And for the first time, she whispered, "I don't think anyone would actually miss me tomorrow." The silence didn't answer. It never did. The next morning, Emily didn't go to work. Her phone kept buzzing. She ignored it. She walked instead. Through London streets. Past cafes full of laughter. Past couples arguing softly. Past children pulling their parents' hands. She kept walking until she reached the Thames. She sat on a bench. Hours passed. No one noticed her. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly woman sat beside her. Not looking at her. Just sitting. After a long silence, the woman said, "You know, I come here every Thursday." Emily nodded slightly. The woman continued, "My husband passed 3 years ago. My children live abroad. I used to think being surrounded by people would stop the loneliness." She turned slightly toward Emily. "But it doesn't work that way." Emily finally spoke. "Then what does?" The woman smiled faintly. "You stop waiting for someone to notice you and start noticing others." That sentence landed somewhere deep. Something changed after that day. Not dramatically. Not instantly. But slowly. Emily started saying, "Good morning" to her neighbors. She started making eye contact again. She joined a small local book group, not because she loved reading, but because she needed to hear voices that weren't on screens. At work, she asked Sarah to grab coffee. One day, Sarah finally said, "I always thought you didn't like people very much." Emily laughed softly. "I thought people didn't need me." A silence followed, but this one wasn't heavy. It was understanding. Months later, Emily stood again on a London bridge. But this time, she wasn't alone inside herself. She still lived in the same city. Still took the same train. Still walked the same streets. But something had changed. She no longer measured her life by how many people were around her, but by how many she truly connected with. Her phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. Drinks tonight, don't say no this time. Emily smiled and replied, I'll be there. The city was still crowded, but for the first time, it didn't feel empty. Moral: being surrounded by people is not the same as being seen. Loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. It often comes from being invisible in a world that is constantly looking, but rarely noticing. And sometimes, the smallest connection is what brings someone back to life.